We saw the video the team put out when
With Lane? Yeah.
Why did you have that strong feeling that you did?
I think that Lane's been a very underappreciated player in the league for a long time, and I think in particular, I think he's not as I guess out in the open or boisterous of a personality, but I think some of the things he's overcome and persevered through has helped a lot more people than people realize. Just speaking firsthand, people that have come up to me and said thank you. Make sure you tell Lane how much I appreciate him being open and honest, and I think it's very apparent what he means to a lot of people in this city and across the country, and certainly this building. So I think that it was, just how I feel.
What has he meant to you?
What has he meant to me? He's like a brother. I've been with him for a long time. He's got a wonderful personality. He's talented at so many things. He's funny. He can, he'll whip out, an animal noise and all of a sudden sound just like a freaking turkey. And he's a very unique individual, and he knows when to keep the mood light. He knows when to get after guys. He's got the, he doesn't have the, just not a lot of to him, I guess. And, I think that's hard really in today's age in general, because there's a lot of that flying around. And I think Lane's, then on top of that, just seeing him go through things in life, and, stuff's hard sometimes, right? In the building, out of the building, it can really, really challenge you. And I think he's responded beautifully, and really, really proud of him for what he's overcome and pushed through and everything like that.
If you think back to 2021,
Mm-hmm.
you were emotional out there talking to us about him.
Yeah.
Did you expect him to respond the way he has publicly to that and kind of take on the form that he has?
I don't know that I expected him to do anything. That was the last thing on my mind at that time. But I think that it's been good that he has, and I think, like I said, there's been so many people that have come up to me, whether I'm down at the shore, out at a bar, heck, when I got nominated for this award, they had a fan come up, and that fan told me how much he appreciated Lane Johnson and what he had went through, and he had went through something similar from a mental health standpoint. So I think, it's the dialogue on that stuff has changed greatly just in our tenure as Philadelphia Eagles, and he's not the only Philadelphia Eagle who's been open and honest about it, but I think that he's done it the right way. He's been open and honest about it, and and I think that has been a great benefit to a lot of people.
How do you see that conversation shift over your tenure in the NFL and to a more productive and better conversation?
It's just the way society goes. I'm not going to sit here and say that the NFL is any worse on that subject than the world. And I think that, you approach people with compassion and humanity and humility. And, I think, obviously, the dialogue on that has become more outspoken. And a lot of that probably is because there's an ability for that to happen now. There wasn't social media 20 years ago. There's barely a social media presence 10 years ago. Now it's anybody can say anything anytime they want, and there's platforms galore to reach audiences and people. So I think a lot of those things have culminated into, progressive change in regards to that.
Jason, I'm sure you've heard about the record with Lane in the lineup versus out of it over his time.
Yeah.
Like the big disparity there. Like, what's the best way to explain the kind of ripple effect of him in the lineup versus out, and why would be so?
Yeah, it's really simple. He's a very good player. I think he offers more than just being physically dominant, but there's a reason why teams invest heavily in the tackle position. When you don't have somebody who can block on the perimeter, you have to drastically change what you're doing. You know, you have to run a different style of offense, or you have to apply help, and that takes away from other things that you can do. And, you know, to have him out there on the right side, and a lot of guys that have done it on the left side as well, it just frees the entire offense up to operate what is best suited to have success. And I think he's a very, very dominant player at what he does, and he can do it all. So I think that that's probably the biggest reason.
I know the league makes a big deal about this award, but it really does seem to resonate with the players, whether it was Brandon last year, you up there. Why is this particular award, I guess, why does it resonate so much with players?
Well, it usually goes to a guy who's really well respected. You know, it usually goes to a guy that's overcome adversity, done a lot for their community. I mean, there's a lot of different reasons why guys get nominated for this, but, you know, they don't give it to, you know, somebody who doesn't deserve to be on that platform. And I think that that's the biggest thing from a player's perspective. I think the league obviously wants to shed that light too. It only benefits the league to show the players that have done things above and beyond what their job description is. So, you know, I think to me it's you know, the award is great, and I'm very happy that the league has it, but I'm more happy for the individuals that that get to be more well known because of the award on a national level.
In your own right about some of the hardships that you faced, especially injury-wise. How do you feel like the team culture, just certain members of the team, help over the years have helped foster just that kind of comfort and being able to speak about it?
Yeah, I don't know. I think we have good people in the building. I think, you know, I think most locker rooms are, you know, if you have a good team, it's going to be open by default. You know, people talk to each other. You know, when teams are bad, they don't talk to each other. Shocker. And I think when you talk to people, you develop chemistry and you develop, you know, sympathy and empathy and all of these things that you create a human connection with. And I think we've had a really, really good locker room since I've been here. And I think when you have those types of relationships, you feel more comfortable, you know, being and saying anything that's on your mind.
Having that platform that you were talking about comes with a lot of weight, and in terms of the vulnerability of the subject, how did you see Lane step into that? Where do you think that strength came from for you?
I don't know. You'd have to ask Lane that question. I think he, you know, he's a strong individual, and you know, he obviously decided to share it. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not gonna shed light on that, I guess.
What has stood out about the group this week so far from what you've seen coming off that tough loss?
I mean, you know, we're back in here working. I think obviously, really, yeah, tough loss. Not a performance that we're proud of, to say the least. But the best thing about this league is you get to go out there and do it again, right? You get to go out there and, you know, what we were last week is done and over. All that matters is who we are this coming week. And I think at the end of the day, I think we have phenomenal players and phenomenal coaches in this building, and I trust each and every one of them to, you know, get this fixed. And everybody's here working and talking and trying to get everything ironed out. And, you know, we get another opportunity this week.
This is something you talked about on the pod. You spoke about the amount of snaps the defense was taking.
Yeah.
And obviously, third down defensive side, what can the offense do to help with that?
Yeah, I think I said that on the podcast too. You know, sustain drives, obviously be more consistent. I think that, you know, it's difficult as a defense to defend consistently when you're fatigued. And I'm not making excuses at all. You know, we got to be better on offense, defense, across the board. But I think that, you know, as an offense, when you're functioning, you're keeping guys fresh. You know, it's hard. Defense is a reactionary position a lot of it, I mean, unless there's a blitz and you're dialed up to go over here, a lot of it is kind of reacting to what the offense is giving you formationally from a play perspective. And you have to be incredibly quick and decisive and athletic. You know, there's a reason why corners are the most athletic guys on the field. It's very hard to play those positions, and I think we can do a better job of keeping those guys fresh just by functioning better as an offense. So I think for me, obviously the defense is going to have their things that they want to fix, but the best way I can approach the next game is just worrying about our offense, worrying about being able to run the ball more effectively, eat up clock if we need to, functioning at a more consistent level is inherently going to make our defense better. And I know they'll get even more better working on making the improvements that they're worried about. So, that's kind of my approach.
Defense presents more than the O-line can handle based upon the play.
Mm-hmm.
You 100% responsible for the protection, changing the protection or
I wouldn't say 100%. I think that we both share that role. Are you talking about like blitzes?
when when Jalen's gonna be hot.
Yeah, I think I would say no. I think I'm responsible for the majority of setting the protections, and I do that. That's a large part of my role.
How do you think you guys have handled those? And also, in terms of, I know this probably isn't your responsibility, but giving him those reads versus the hot blitz.
I don't think the blitz zeros and those things have been a large issue of the offense. I think, we barely got blitzed at all last week. I think we've had a lot of pressure on the quarterback at times, and sometimes that comes down to blitzes. Sometimes it comes down to, it can be for various reasons. And I think that we've probably been in too many situations like that.
You mentioned the effectiveness of the run game. How close do you guys feel like you are to finding some answers there?
I think we're very close. I think that the plays that are being called a lot of times are there. We had a toss crack where if I don't get undercut by the safety, that's a huge play. And, I think it's, at certain games it's been there. The second half of the Buffalo game, really, really well. Early in the season it was certainly clicking. At times against Kansas City this last week, obviously, was a really rough one. But I think, I do think it's close for sure.
You guys, in your time here, you've had losses that have gone both ways. And I think 2018, you guys lose New Orleans by 5, went 5-6. In 2014, you lose to Seattle, things went south thereafter. What's kind of the difference between a team that can keep a loss isolated and a loss that trickles in following the game?
Well, usually one loss isn't the big concern. I think, typically when losing starts to affect the mentality of a team, it's a consistent basis. You start to lose trust within your coaches and whatnot. I think, we have a lot of really good players in this building and, again, great coaches. So I think that, when you look at, seasons that we've overcome bad losses, I mean, every season is going to have a bad loss, unfortunately, for the most part. This one was particularly bad, but every season is going to have some type of struggle that you shouldn't have lost, right? Good teams, good players, good coaches, find a way to just move on to the next week, make the corrections, and go about your business. And I think, in 2017, we were a really good team, so I don't think that it would have mattered what the losses looked like or how much they were by. I think that we just had a good team and good coaches. I don't think that the loss, I guess, dictates anything. It's just how good is the team, and can the team, continue moving forward in a productive way that allows for growth and improvement.
Jason, you mentioned 2017. That was the last time the Eagles won in Dallas. And I think it's 2011 since you swept the season series. What's your take on that kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, listen, they've had our number for a couple of years. I mean, swept the series. I think there's been some circumstances that have helped them in that regard, with playoff situations. We played a couple meaningless games, I guess, against Dallas. But certainly in Dallas, they've had our number, no question about it. And I think, you know, they're a good team. You know, they won their last 14 at home, so they operate well and feel very comfortable operating in Jerry World. So, you know, get an opportunity this week to change that. Maybe make it a different story. But, you know, I think it's a, I don't know.
More, please. Is that a place that historically you guys have okay playing at in terms of, like, you know, on the road, having to go through all, whatever it is that the stadium may present to you and the track?
I wouldn't say it's a stadium. It's not like a Seattle, if that's what you're asking. Yeah, I think, listen, I think they're a good team, and division games are close, and they've closed them out at home. You know, early on in my career, we actually were doing pretty good up there, and we won like the 2013 game right when the stadium was built and had some success. But yeah, lately they have had our number up in Dallas, or down in Dallas.